All right, guys, this is going to be fun. Today, my guest is Erin Rollenhagen. Erin is the founder and CEO of Entrepreneurial Technologies and the author of the new book, Uprising. Erin made a name for herself at 14 when she gained national media attention as she led a protest in her middle school. That's right. And she has been living by a different set of rules ever since. She carried that rebel spirit into her career, founding ET, Entrepreneurial Technologies, in 2007 on the premise that tech does not have to be cold and heartless. Plus, in her new book, Erin encourages her fellow entrepreneurs and business leaders to trust their purpose and embrace impact as the true measure of success. We're going to be talking with her about her book and some of the key strategies we all can learn from it. And I am looking forward to this. And by the way, Erin lives in my favorite town, Des Moines, Iowa, and she resides there with her beloved corgi, Bruno. So let's get to this interview. Erin, welcome to Dream Think Do.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here.
This is awesome. I love it. It has been a long time coming. And so I was excited to see the book was out and just wanted to talk with you about that. But let's talk about you for a second. You lead a protest at 14. What was the deal?
So we had a kid in our middle school class who was being pretty hard on some of the girls in our class. And he happened to wear a different Hooters shirt to school every day.
Wow.
And so a friend of mine and I thought we were going to teach him a thing or two. And so we made our own shirts that looked a lot like Hooters shirts, but they had a rooster on them instead of an owl.
We'll let the dream thing do, people. Fill that blank in, right?
Right. I'll let you draw your own conclusions there.
Yeah.
But so we got about 50 students to wear these shirts to school in protest, and people got suspended. USA Today covered it. ACLU was involved. It was
and really this is in Little Old Ames, Iowa, right?
Yeah, for sure. It was.
And did you get a sense when you started, and this, like, boys and girls are wearing the t-shirt you guys came up with, or girls, boys, whatever.
Right.
Did you get a sense when you started that this was going to escalate so quickly, or did you just think, all right, we're just going to try to do something small here?
Well, we of course had no idea it was going to get that kind of national attention. We had an idea that we had picked kind of a volatile topic when our art teacher decided not to let us print the shirts at the school screen printing facilities because he wanted to keep his job. So
probably a good call. That's some wisdom. Yeah.
Yeah. So we had a sense that it might be a little bit more controversial than we had originally thought it was going to be, but yeah, definitely had no idea that it was going to get national media attention.
That's hilarious. And so USA Today picks it up, all of that. Now, when you look back, I know you've been a long time entrepreneur now. As you look back, do you feel like things like that played a part into you being willing to step out on your own as an entrepreneur, kind of like going through something like that at 14? Do you feel like that was a key part of the entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, I mean, I think, maybe more than that, maybe it just kind of demonstrated early on that I wasn't that worried about what other people thought or about taking the safe road, you know?
Yeah.
And I will say, for something to kind of blow up like that to the degree that it did, and everything turned out fine. I still got into college. They told me I wouldn't, but they let me in. You know?
Right, exactly. You defied the odds at 14, so why not keep it going, right?
Right.
That's huge. I love it. I do. It's so interesting to talk with, we've gotten to talk with so many different people, a lot of entrepreneurs, but a lot of people that are just going out and doing their own thing. And it is amazing how often, there's little clues from their life, whether it's, from being a kid or college or whatever, where you're like, yep, little predictors of what was going to happen later. So I love that. So you started ET really with a different kind of purpose of, embracing impact and looking at success differently. And that's really played into the book as well. Why the book? It's called Uprising. Why now?
So when I started my business, it was 2007, 2008, which, if you remember
Perfect
what
timing.
happened, yeah, beautiful timing, right?
Exactly.
It's like I had a crystal ball.
Exactly right. Yeah. Oh, that's hilarious.
So, questionable prognostication there on my part to start my business on the cusp of the greatest recession in U.S. history. But it was really a great education, because what I came to see is that people become the most extreme in their behavior when they're under financial stress. I had started that business because I had done a side project for a local small business, and I got to see how much custom technology could really improve their lives. And that was a big deal to me because at my day job, I was working on these huge governmental projects that took years and years and years to
Right.
get going. And I never once met a real person who was using it. Right.
Yeah. You never got to see the impact. You never got to see the fruit. Right.
Right. So that impact element was kind of missing, but then I could do this side project for, a local business in a few months and see it have real impact for people. So that was what was driving me. I was like, oh, this is motivating. This gets me
Yeah.
out of bed in the morning. I can do this. But then I start my business and I get out in the world and I'm, maybe a little naive in a lot of ways.
God
And
bless you. Right. It takes some naivete to get into to be an entrepreneur. It's like,
right,
hopefully I don't know the things I should be afraid of. Right.
right. And I didn't. I thought
Yeah.
everybody, I thought I was just going to get out there and do the best I could and everything was going to work out. And I distinctly remember this one moment. I'm trying to make it and I get this contract working for what's a pretty large business in the area. And I was so excited. It was like a big commitment, enough to replace all of my income at my previous job. So, and
Wow.
if you've never started a business before, folks, like that's the bar, right?
Right.
That's what you're going for. Like, can
Exactly
I
right.
make as much
Let's
money?
at least do that, please, for the love of everything holy.
Right. Can
Yes.
I please make as much as I did at my old job?
Yes.
And so I got this. I was so excited. And my payment terms at that point were 15 days because I didn't have a lot of leeway,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Living pretty close to the bone. And so 15 days comes and goes, no sign of anything.
Oh,
30 days. So I start sending my contact emails and they're like, oh yeah, it'll get paid. It'll get paid. 45 days. Finally at 60 days, they pay it without a word.
wow.
And I was sweating this whole time going, what am I going to do? And
Yeah.
thinking, well, maybe they're upset with me in some way, but they're not saying it. And this goes on, several more times over the next few months. And finally I'm talking to my client contact and he says to me, well, our policy is we always pay in 60 days, regardless of what's agreed to in the contract. So it drives me nuts, but that's the way we do it. We're trying to get that extra 1.5% on the money just
Right.
sitting there. And I remember like my world kind of crashing down around me at that moment, realizing that intelligent business people that I respected thought this was the right way to do business.
Right. Right. And it's like, wait a
And
second,
so,
this is wrong. This is broken. Right. So yeah,
yeah,
it's that whole, are we going to decide to make it better? Right.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
amazing.
And and so going through that experience and, at first I was like, well, maybe I'm the one who's wrong, right? These are a bunch of people who've been doing this for years. They're
Yeah.
successful. They're well respected. Maybe I should be listening to what they're doing, but it didn't feel right.
Yeah.
And so over the years, we built up some strategies to be able to be sustainable, but also do things in a way that feels right and feels good and feels like we're taking care of people and putting impact first.
Yeah.
And from talking to other entrepreneurs, we work with a lot of entrepreneurs in our business,
Sure.
build projects for them. I realized there are a lot of people who feel that way, but they haven't really been given permission to feel that way,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Well, and they kind of
So I
long
thought,
for that, right? Like, and you talk about
yeah,
sustainability from a business perspective. And I couldn't agree more that I think, you know, I think truly, if we're going to take care of our heart, one of the things we have to take care of is like, wait, are we living true to values that we can sustain as a business as well? You know, it's just that whole thing of like, to be
right.
able to say, all right, are we going to do it in a way where I can wake up in the morning and feel really good about what we're doing from soup to nuts, you know, the whole thing. So I
Right.
love that. I love that. So let's talk about the book, because you really do get into a number of really important subjects. And I know one is about being strong and authentic. And I think Dream Think Doers will really appreciate some of the specific strategies you have around that subject specifically.
Yeah, and I think that can be a tough one for people.
Yeah.
Maybe as a woman, I feel it even a little bit more than some other people might. But there's all these. I think we all pick up these archetypes that we have in our mind, these roles that we've seen other people play. Whether that's business world, whether that's our personal life, we've seen things, and we have a tendency to want to emulate the people that we see as the most successful
Yeah.
in whatever that is. is. And we may pick up little bits and pieces of what they think. And that becomes like this running monologue in our heads that's boxing us in to something. And, whether we pick it up from our parents, we pick it up from an old boss, we pick up all these ideas about what we are or aren't supposed to do.
Yeah.
And I find a lot of times if we're having trouble being authentic, a lot of it comes from these walls we've put up that are made up of other people's limitations.
It's a great point.
Right?
Absolutely. And a lot of times that's so subtle. We're not consciously doing it, right? It's just sneaking in and we're doing it at a subconscious level.
Right. And a lot of times from the other person's standpoint, it doesn't come from anything malicious either, but it's very frequently something that they're not giving themselves permission to do.
Very true.
Right?
Yeah.
So the trick I've learned to do when I hear that little voice in my head of somebody saying, I don't think you can do that. I don't think that, that's a smart business move. You're not good enough with money to do that, whatever the case might be. I take and rephrase it in my mind and I picture that person saying themselves, I feel insecure about blank in my own life.
Oh, that's good. Well, I can immediately think of what that would do, but what does that do for you then? That's great. I love it.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it makes you view that person with compassion, right? Because a lot of times we get defensive and angry and all that. And you realize you come at it from a more compassionate place, but you're also more easily able to set it aside.
Yeah. Give us a phrase again. I think some people just pulled over to write this thing down. So we have a lot of commuter listeners. So please, people, stop the car and pull over. Give us the phrase again. So again, as you hear somebody say something to you about doubt or pushing back or whatever, the phrase is.
You rephrase it so they are saying themselves, I feel insecure about blank in my own life.
That's awesome.
Try it. It's almost always true.
I bet. And like you said, that flips in your head so that it probably allows you to stay out of kind of fight or flight and even go, aw, right? Like you can have, like you say, have compassion for the person, but also then not move into defensive mode.
Right.
So that's awesome. I love that. That's powerful.
Yeah. That's it's been a helpful one for me.
I bet. And I do think that it is so important. And I think to your point too, especially as a woman, I think it really can be harder to kind of make a stand for yourself based on those archetypes and all those things, right? We all need to learn to do it and do it in a way that's true to us and in a way that's, continues to move projects forward, build relationships, build trust. But it really does take some muscles. It takes some exercise. So I love this. So what are some other examples of things that you found that help you to both stay strong and authentic to who you are?
So I think a big aspect of it is making sure that you're giving from a sustainable place. So many of us, we want to have impact. We want to be true to our purpose. And we think that means we have to run ourselves ragged and keep saying yes over and over and over again, right? One big way I see a lot of new entrepreneurs, and I was guilty of this myself, not coming from a sustainable place is pricing. People feel guilty about charging what they're worth.
Yep.
And if you flip that a little bit and you think of it as, it's my job to set this business up as something sustainable so that I'm here for the people who need me in the future.
Yep.
Right? That is really important. And it's also, it's information.
Yep.
It's important business data. The people who want to do business with you need to know what the investment is. That's just a piece of data they need to know in order to decide if it's the right business decision for them. Yep. And it doesn't do them any good if you underprice and then have to double your prices 6 months later because it wasn't working. Right?
Absolutely.
So coming from a sustainable place, and then that also means giving only what you can give freely. You and I have spoken about this a little bit about setting boundaries and why that's important. It's that whole you can't pour from an empty cup concept.
Yep. Well, it's huge. I mean, we've talked a little bit about in the past, just being introverts. We're both introverts, proud introverts, right? So that's just a great example though of, we can do all sorts of extroverted stuff. as long as then we also give ourselves that permission to get some downtime and be introverted and all of that. So I think it goes to pricing. I think it also goes to boundarying your time. But I think pricing is that one, especially for entrepreneurs and new and old entrepreneurs. That one's like, oh yeah, we all have to be reminded of that, because it's so easy to undervalue and then get ourselves into a tough situation where we're either needing to increase our rates or have those, have the scope creep happen, or we're just not getting paid enough to keep it sustainable. So I'm with you. So let's talk about that, because we haven't ever really talked about pricing. And I know, as a small business owner, you are helping, small, mid, large businesses, all different types, but all different kinds of projects, and I'm sure all different kinds of budgets. So what do you say to the voice in your head that goes, "Oh, Erin, they can't afford that," right? What do you say to be able to kind of catch yourself and make sure that you're staying true to the kind of pricing that's sustainable for you?
Yeah. So we try to stay out of the emotional pricing.
Mm,
And one way we do that is we try to set a very high level estimate really early on before we're emotionally attached to the project.
ah,
So after one meeting, we'll look at it, we'll throw a dart at it. And we'll
yeah,
say, based on past experience, we think we're in this range. And it'll be a big range because there's a lot we don't know yet,
yeah,
right?
sure,
But at least we've set something out there and told the client,
yep,
so that if that's in no way realistic, they can walk away and there's not too much invested in it,
yep,
right?
exactly, exactly.
And that doesn't, and sometimes they do walk away, and that doesn't feel as great, of course, as when we're able to continue, but
Right.
it's really valuable to those people,
Oh
right?
boy.
I mean, imagine if you were, considering investing a significant portion of your savings in your dream of creating an app, and you spend $10,000 on design only to find out you can't afford to build it. That's
Right.
terrible, right?
Right. Exactly. Heart wrenching. Right. And like you said, I'd rather upset them early, or, disappoint them a little bit early than get to, like you're saying, to that midpoint within the project and realize they can't keep going.
Right, right. So, if there's going to be bad news, I would rather deliver it for free
Exactly right.
early on.
Exactly right. Well, and that also speaks to, though, your heart for, I mean, and that's the sustainability part for you too, because I'm sure there's plenty of organizations that are out there that do what you do, that are happy to get people on the hook, get the 10 grand for development, even though they know there's a good chance that that client does not have the money to actually pull it through. There's still organizations that are happy to do that. That's just not the kind of organization you want to run.
And I know a lot around here. I know a lot of the people that are in the same field we are, and
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's at it in a bad way. But I think what happens if you're not careful to build your process to avoid that, it just happens really easily.
Yeah.
Um, because everybody's happy and it's no fun to talk about money. It doesn't feel good. It's awkward. So it just keeps getting pushed off and pushed
Yeah.
off and pushed off. And pretty soon you're like 4 meetings in and it's time to sign on the dotted line.
Exactly. Yeah.
And now you have to talk about it. So I think that everybody goes into it well intentioned,
Right.
or I'd certainly like to believe that. And from everything I've seen, it's true. Um, but setting up some processes that are going to help you get where you want to go in the right way,
Yep.
stop that from happening.
Yep. I like that. And it is true. It's kind of what we do with my coaching. And, I do coaching and work with people who do a lot of coaching. And if somebody, sends out like an email saying, "Hey, I'm interested in working with you, what do we need to do?" We fire that back, but we do, just to your point, say, "Hey, but here's the price range that we're talking about. And if that doesn't work for you, it's totally okay. We've got some other resources we can, and other coaches we can point to, those kinds of things." But it takes away the shock. I'm sure some people might be shocked a little bit, but it's that whole thing of much rather have that happen before anybody's invested much time at all. So I think that is really powerful. And then also stand by your pricing, right? To know why it is that you're pricing it that way, so that you can hire good people, you can pay good people, make it sustainable, and deliver the kind of thing, the services that you want to be able to deliver. So that's huge. It's a great point. And it goes to that whole authenticity, because you don't want to surprise people or worry about surprising people that way.
No, and it does nobody any good for us to put out something that's not high enough quality to be successful. right? I
Right.
want to say crap. I decided to say it in a little nicer way.
It
But
was so professional. That was very professional, Erin.
it doesn't
But
do
we
anybody
also
any
know what
good.
crap products look like, and nobody wants that. You're exactly right. So true. That's
Right.
so true. I love it. This is gold. I love it. It's fantastic. So let's go after one more. If people really are wanting to be strong and authentic, I think sometimes it's so funny because I almost said it like strong but authentic. It's like no, strong and authentic. What would you say is one additional strategy that you offer people? Think that's important.
Yeah. So I think what's interesting there, and I thought about your wording there, and I thought it's so interesting that in our minds, those are two opposing ideas,
Right,
right?
right.
Like, why do those feel like opposing ideas? And I think what a lot of it comes down to is we haven't developed enough faith in our purpose. If
Mm,
we feel unshakable in our
yeah,
commitment to our purpose, that the authenticity is going to be there and the strength is going to be there, right?
yeah.
But instead, a lot of times what we commit to in place of our purpose is our plan.
Mm,
Plans are easy to get excited about, right? They're very
right.
concrete. Sometimes there's spreadsheets involved. Like it feels good, it feels stable, it feels solid, and
Yeah.
you don't have to get into any of that touchy-feely stuff that people might call you out for. But that's not where the strength is, right? The plan is kind of irrelevant and it's going to change anyway because that's how
Right.
business is,
Exactly. But
right?
if,
So
yeah, absolutely.
so you have to be more committed to your purpose than to your plan, and that's where the strength is going to come from.
I love that. So I think it's so true, especially if you're going to be if you're going to be in the and category, strong and authentic, right? Do
Mhm.
you have, I mean, and I love, we could do a whole hour and a half just on purpose alone. But if somebody's like, oh, I get it. I love that, Erin, but how do I figure out my purpose? Do you have, what tip do you have for helping somebody just get even a little bit more clear about what their purpose might be?
This one's interesting to me, and I will tell you, I'm the person who avoided creating a mission statement for
Yeah.
years of
Yeah.
having my business because it felt like some fake thing that we were going to hang on the wall and never look at again. Right?
Exactly.
I
Get a
wasn't
nice accessories print. Yeah.
right. I wasn't excited about that at
Yeah.
all. But what I eventually realized is we had a lot of purpose, and the thing that was revealing to me is I thought about the projects that were the most fulfilling for us. And
Yeah.
I did this exercise with the whole team. And we looked at the projects that we found the most fulfilling and said, what was it about those projects that
Mm,
was the most fulfilling? And we found it was projects where we could build trust with the client and projects where we were able to have a lot of impact. Yours might be different. Those
yep.
are probably fairly generic at that level that a lot of people would identify, but somebody else's could be different.
Sure.
The the thing about it was that we were able to, rather than having it be something aspirational that we're like, we think this is what our purpose ought to be, we
Right.
were able to look at it and say, okay, really what's resonating?
Yeah.
What's driving us? What's getting us out of bed in the morning? What's making us put in extra hours? This is it. It's when we can connect with real people who are behind businesses and see an impact from the work that we do with them.
I love that. And I appreciate the idea of, and part of this goes to the fact that you guys have been doing this for years, right? If somebody is just starting out, this strategy may be a little bit more difficult. But I think it's so much more powerful. The thought of being able to look back and say,
Mm-hmm.
okay, in the real world, not just I wish someday, right? But in the real world, which projects have we gelled with the most? What kind of clients have we gelled with the most? What was that? Like what brought that satisfaction, that sense of fulfillment, the kind of results we wanted to see, all those kinds of things. And I love kind of doing that retrospectively to then draw out your values from the experience as opposed to kind of guessing what they
Mm-hmm.
might be. I think that's really powerful. And the whole team was involved in something like that for you.
Right. And so if you were just starting out, you could do that in a little bit different way.
Yeah.
What I think was key about that is it took purpose from a set of adjectives
Yeah.
to verbs, right?
Mm,
What's the actual action here that feels good?
yeah.
And so I think you could do that same thing if you're just starting out and you don't have the retrospective viewpoint on it. You can look at it and say, okay, I'm not going to think of my purpose as a set of adjectives of what I want to be. I want to be compassionate, honest, kind, whatever. How does it look if I'm doing those things? What are my actions going to be if I am doing those things?
Adjectives or verbs. You had me at hello. That was, I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm speechless. That's awesome. It's so true. And I think it is. It's one of those things where I think sometimes people hear the mission statement purpose kind of thing and go, airy fairy, rainbows, butterflies, cotton candy doesn't have any substance. But when you do this kind of activity and exercise, especially like you said, you move from, adjectives to verbs, that is something that people can take and run with. Right. And that's key. That's gold. Erin, so much gold. Okay, gang. We're going to pose one last question for Erin. And then I'm going to give you a little synopsis here. So Erin, I always love to wrap these conversations up with a little wisdom for the week, kind of that one last tip or strategy or quote, whatever it is, something that's helped you along the way to do more of what you were put on the planet to do. So I'll give you a second to think about it. And Dream Think Doers, has this not been awesome? All right. We've been talking with Erin Rollenhagen. Her book is called Soul Uprising. It's never just business. Now you can go grab it at erinrollenhagen.com. You can find it on Amazon as well, but you're going to get better pricing. And you can connect with Erin there. So erinrollenhagen.com. You're going to want to grab a copy of it for yourself, for your friends, for everybody that you know. All right. So Erin, what do you think? Wisdom of the week to send us out with.
Yeah. So a lot of times I think people are afraid to truly step into their purpose because they feel like they don't look or sound like everybody else.
Yeah.
And being in technology, one thing I know is that every step forward that has ever happened in our field has happened because someone had a different viewpoint and they were willing to put that out there. So that's what I'm going to leave you with.
I love it. Absolutely. Just to embrace that, right? Like it's that whole thing that probably that inner voice would try to convince you to step back. It's like, no, step into it. I love it. Erin, thanks so much for bringing the gold. This is fantastic. Really appreciate you and look forward to having you back on Dream Think Do.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Mitch.